it, all rice diet. Works great and it's cheap.
Cool. We have a tendency to think the things that we landed on and the things that we're doing are brand new. But sometimes there's like pioneers out there. There's people that try stuff and they kind of show us time and time again that there's nothing new under the sun. Somebody in the comment section said there's an old video of Rich Piana doing 5 meals and then his last meal is protein. And I figured this would be a great video to share with you guys so you can kind of see that there's a lot of people out there that experiment with different things, try different things. Unfortunately, everybody knows, Rich Piana is not with us any longer. I don't know exactly what he died from, but shit, he was big, right? And he definitely abused some drugs. I don't know the extent of like what kind of drugs, other than obviously everybody knows that he utilized performance-enhancing drugs. Aside from that, I got respect for the guy. I became friends with him, and I liked his work ethic, and I love the fact that he was down to experiment. And this video, I think, is really interesting because he's primarily eating carbohydrate. So we'll roll some of it, let you guys see it, and I'll pop in and interrupt and give some of my thoughts.
What's up, everyone? So I wanted to share with you guys what I've been doing food-wise. I'm always experimenting, trying new shit, and I do it just for my curiosity to see what's going to happen.
Did the Liver King steal his chair when he died? Because the Liver King has the same chair. I think he may have.
I'm a big believer in finding out for yourself, not listening to what everyone else is fucking saying and following the fucking crowd, It's about finding out for yourself. So anyway, guys, so what I've been doing with my eating regimen, my diet, whatever the fuck you want to call it, is I've been eating rice and only rice. And I've been doing it for the first 5 meals of the day. And then the last meal, I eat protein.
How did he stumble upon this? This is kind of cool hearing him talk about this. First 5 meals of the day, rice, and then the last meal, having some, throwing down some protein. It's interesting because it's right up there with the sugar diet. People might not know that rice turns to, rice is primarily, the primary sugar in rice is glucose. So rice has a pretty good glycemic response, pretty good glycemic index. One thing about rice that's amazing, and one thing that's amazing about sugars in general, is that a lot of times they digest really easily, depending on the type of sugar. So if it's like lactose, of course, that can be difficult for some people. But straight table sugar digests really well with nearly just about anybody. And then certain fruits and stuff like that, like some fruit can have too much fiber and doesn't digest well, but rice usually agrees with everybody. And one of the reasons why bodybuilders use it is because they'll have, rice, and they'll have like chicken, or they'll have rice and like steak. And those kind of meats are also things that digest really easily. So this is pretty cool. This is pretty interesting. Look how damn big, you kind of forget how big Rich Piana was, but he's freaking jacked.
I don't have any protein throughout the day, so I'm eating 5 meals. Each meal is between 1.5 and 2 cups of rice. And the reason I'm doing this is because I just kind of wanted to see if having 1 protein meal a day will really affect, my body, my muscle mass, how I feel, and so forth. We know it won't affect my pump.
I think what's amazing about this is sounds like intuitively, he's just like trying something, and he somehow made sense of this. I could picture him, about to go to bed one evening, and he's like, you know what? Like, I have all that protein all day long, and it slows me down and makes me not want to do shit. And I think people have always thought it's the carbs. So often when you hear people, they're like, oh, if I have a carb, I got to take a nap. And I understand what they're talking about, because usually if you have carbs, a lot of times when you have carbohydrates, you have something like pasta, you're going to just overeat it. But you're not usually just eating just pasta. It's not usually fat-free. It usually has sauce, and the sauce usually has fat in it. Sometimes there's Parmesan on there. Or you're eating it with meatballs and shit like that. And that will really slow you down. And when, for a bodybuilder, they eat much cleaner than that, obviously. But to digest chicken breast, especially chicken breast with some seasoning on it, or some steak with some seasoning on it and some rice, you tend to when you go to work out after that, you tend to burp and stuff like that. And it's just it gets to be kind of gross. But when you just have rice, like, at least for me, none of that shit happens. It's such a clean food to digest. So I love the intuition here of him just being like, yeah, let me see what happens when my day is not impeded by food, because that's what's happening is your day is sort of taken over by food. And if you just pick one style of food and you pick one style of food that can digest really well shit, then you end up with just like what he's doing, just eating rice, which is, it's super smart. I mean, there's no FODMAPs in there. There's no like, fermented vegetables. There's just nothing in the way of him digesting this very cleanly and doing all the shit that he'd like to do as an entrepreneur and as a lifter. And so I dig it. I think it's super cool.
But I was just curious if, my body would change visually at all, only eating one meal of protein a day. And I'm on my 4th week of doing this. Now, when I go to expos, obviously, I don't stick to that because it's just too chaotic and too crazy to try to stick to any kind of motherfucking regimen. So I just eat whatever the fuck I want. So in doing this, I have to say that, I feel great. I have great energy. It's a lot of carbs. It's a great carb. My pumps are awesome. After my workout, I'm still doing the shakes, but I'm just doing the rice shakes instead of the sweet potato shakes, and that wouldn't even really make a difference, but I just wanted to do all rice and just stick to it.
He did he made a shake that had like sweet potato in it, which again, I thought was smart. I think he might have made a shake that may have had sweet potato and maybe had like beef in it or something, like a beef protein or something like that. He was creative because I remember he talked a lot about like food and he was like, man, it's just kind of hard to eat food all the time. And so he made this like sweet potato powder and he would just, it would be like, it was like a drink. You turn it into like a drink. It's like instead of like just a protein shake, it was like a carb and protein and maybe fat shake, I think. Might have had some other stuff in it.
Real carbs, complex carbohydrate, uses high quality, low glycemic, whole food based sources of carbohydrate designed to help you meet your real food meal requirements.
Yeah, that's probably it. I don't remember it's like, he's been gone for a while. So who knows, maybe the company changed a little bit, but from what I recall, it was like made out of it had sweet potato in there or something like that. I think maltodextrins and stuff too are derived from potatoes, but I could be wrong. Anyway, back to the video.
It's working out great and it's very healthy for me. As bodybuilders, you guys know that, all the protein we eat and, training and the lactic acid buildup is just really hard on our organs, kidneys especially. So I'm in my 4th week of doing it and just sharing my experiment with you guys, just to pass it on, what I found to be, a good diet. It seems to be working great and cheap as fuck for the people out there that can't afford, protein's expensive as hell. And, I put, spaghetti sauce on my rice. So, it's basically just white rice with a little bit of spaghetti sauce and it's easy, Chanel makes a big tub every morning. And, I eat that big tub a day, every day. So, 2, 4, 6, 8, close to 10 cups of rice a day was a shitload of rice. But you guys gotta understand, a shitload of carbs. But the calories aren't that high because there's not that many calories and there's no fat. So it's very little calories, pretty low calorie diet. And then at night, I eat maybe 80 grams of protein.
This is interesting too. He's talking about his protein, around 80 grams of protein. But let's check with ChatGPT here and see how many calories 10 buckets of rice is. How many calories is in 10 cups of rice?
The calorie count for rice can vary a bit depending on the type of rice, but on average, 1 cup of cooked white rice is about 200 calories. So if you have 10 cups, that would be roughly 2,000 calories.
There you go. 2,000 calories. He's right. I mean, it's really not that crazy calories. I mean, this guy, Rich Piana probably ate 6,000 or 8,000 calories a day with how freaking big he is. But man, that's a lot of rice. You would also get a actually decent amount of protein with that amount of rice coming in. I would be surprised if it was lower than 25 to 30 grams of protein from 10 cups of rice, I think.
Here's the breakdown. It says 1 cup of cooked rice has about 4 grams of protein. So 10 cups would be about 40 grams.
Yeah. So 40. So, he's mentioning that he had like 80 grams of protein to 100, 100-ish maybe grams of protein. And then he would be at like 140, if he had the rice. That's interesting, because all these foods, almost every food that you eat has protein in it. Whether it's an apple, a banana, a date, a stalk of broccoli, kale, spinach, potato. Everything has like some amino acid profile, a little bit to it. And I think we forget that, I think. But I know what he's talking about. I know he's just mainly counting, only a psychopath would count their protein calories coming from, rice or whatever.
For me, when I say 80, it could be anywhere from 60 to 100, but a little bit higher than a normal meal. And I gotta say that it's working out great. It's an awesome diet. So you guys, if you're curious, give it a try. But I've concluded that you don't need to be eating fucking 6 meals a day with every meal having protein in it. Your body is not gonna suffer. You're not gonna lose muscle mass. It's not gonna affect your muscle gains, in my opinion. And again, a lot of people say, well, why don't you try doing it for 6 months, Rich, or do it for a year and then see what happens. And, there is some truth to that. If I did this diet for 6 months, maybe it might have a little bit of effect, on my muscle mass, gains or possibly losing muscle mass. I don't believe so, but, until you actually fucking try it and see for yourself, you really don't fucking know. Fuck it, all rice diet fucking works great and it's cheap as fuck.
Yeah, what a cool experiment. I'm not sure how long he, stuck with that, or if it was just something he just tried and halfway liked it or didn't like it or whatever. But I think, also too, like in terms of like the sugar diet, he may not have pushed into it hard enough. Like it kind of sounds like he was like, he was flying around the right idea, but maybe didn't quite land on the full effect of the sugar diet, because the rice does have protein in it, and because he was consuming protein later in the evening. Some of the FGF21 and some of the results of the honey diet, sugar fast, is believed to come from the release of FGF21 and some other hormones, cascade of hormones, GDF15. These hormones appear to be like muscle sparing. They appear to increase metabolic rate, help us to bring the metabolism up by around 20% from some reports, from some studies. And maybe just doing just straight rice maybe had some impact, but maybe not to the same extent. Maybe it brings up your metabolic rate by 10% or something like that. Maybe it's just a smaller amount, but interesting. It's interesting to see a guy like Rich Piana just stumble upon something like that, because at the time, this is years and years ago. There was no sugar diet, so he just, I don't know, he just tweaked some things around and figured this out. When people talk about like rest and digest, it's like rest and digest happens a lot when you eat protein. Eat a lot of protein, man, and your gut is just like, oh man, you just kind of, and again, unless you eat something kind of small, if you have a small amount of chicken breast or something, or you have a small amount of egg whites, or even a couple eggs, that's not usually that bad. But other types of proteins seem to kind of, maybe it's just me, but they seem to they take a long time to digest. The satiation associated with protein would suggest that, because the protein's breaking down slowly, that's part of what's responsible for that satiation. And maybe your stomach distension is maybe another, because your stomach stretching is actually a signal. Your stomach stretching a little bit is a signal like, hey, you had enough. So it's all just really interesting stuff. I'm glad we were able to share that with you, and I'm glad that somebody in the comment section brought that up, because I think we should do more videos like this to kind of show you that people have been kind of experimenting and playing around with these ideas and concepts for a long time. And I think the sugar diet is just in its beginning phases. Like, it's just getting started. And there's going to be people that experiment and people that try things that that end up really advancing it forward. I know Jay Campbell is doing a lot of stuff with it. And myself, like I'm still playing around with it, doing different things with it. Although I haven't done, days of sugar fasting in a little while, but when I come back from my trip from Scotland, I definitely plan to go into Joe Brindley's 6-day plan and maybe try that 2 or 3 times in a row and see where it will lead me. Because Joe was just like, hey, just try it, man. Just try it. So I'm like, yeah, I need to just try it. He's right. I haven't actually done it yet. So I have done a week of sugar fasting and I liked it. But I didn't feel like it was most beneficial for me. And from that point is when I brought more protein in, and from bringing in a little bit more protein along with the carbohydrates I was eating, the workouts went even more through the roof, and I gained some muscle mass, gained some size. And now I'm like, fuck, this is awesome. And now I'm like, man, maybe I should just get strong again, get big. But nah, we're done with that phase. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.